Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphanlast, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to continue with the commission piece right where we left off. And right now, at the very beginning of this video here, you see me, I grabbed this image off Google Images, and it's a color reference from Naruto. The client kept talking about Naruto, and so I thought, well, why don't I try to adopt some of its color palette. Now, I'm using the color picker. This is something that's kind of frowned upon among artistic circles, but the thing is I've already said inside of a previous video when I've gone ahead and continued with coloring and such like that, I consider the colors that I lay down initially just as a base, so I wind up altering every single color that you see me laying down. I'm not really too devoted to it. Ultimately, what I wind up using is adjustment layers in order to get the final touch in there. It kind of feels like, at least for me, kind of like how I treat my audio, where I go ahead and I record everything and translate that over. I go ahead and color everything. And then, with the audio, what I do is I go ahead and remaster the audio. I work with the equalization, the compression, and such like that. And so, using the adjustment layers and such like that kind of feels like that. I'm remastering the colors. And ultimately, the goal is to make it so that I don't have to do that, where the colors that I laid down initially wind up being the colors that I use. It's just, you know, we all learn in our own way, and this is the easiest, fastest way for me to produce a professional-looking image really quickly. And so, if that's basically the reason why I do it this way. It may be a crutch, I don't know, but ultimately, I'm open to and am currently exploring other ways to color your image. And here you see me modify pretty much everything with the villain inside of the image. And I didn't really get any feedback on how he should look or anything, so I changed up his pose, and then I went ahead and sent one of my sketches over to the client and said, does this work? And after about a day, he went ahead and responded back and said, yeah, that looks awesome. And so I went ahead and went with it. He actually never even saw the color of the guy's hair or anything. The thing is, I don't want to work on something for about an hour just for the client to say, no, I want you to completely redo that. So whenever a significant change to the image is made, such as a different pose than what I've been showing inside of all of my other little updates towards the client, whenever there's a change like that, I need to make sure I get the go-ahead, because I'm not going to be working for nothing, for no one to see it. And here I was thinking, yeah, you know, I want to add more details to these trees, but it didn't really work out that way. And since I used one of my assets in order to create this tree, it was difficult to try to find a image off of Google Maps that might give me a hint as to how to do it. So next time that I need to make a tree, I'm not going to be using this asset ever. Yeah, I mean, it's a good tree for the image that I wound up reusing multiple times, kind of trying to create the illusion that maybe they're actually in a natural environment with forests and such like that. And yeah, I mean, it turned out fine, but next time I need to make a tree, I'm going to draw from an actual reference and then make sure that I can color it from that reference. And here you see me put in the energy ball. The initial plan, at least for me, was to add blue flame and electricity coming from this ball. And so the previous thumbnail that I drew out that had that ball in it, and that was about this commission, it has electricity in it. But he was pretty adamant he wanted to have it be this wind, just like Naruto. Forgive me, I don't know anything about Naruto or anything like that, or if I'm even pronouncing it correctly or not. But yeah, I'm just I just looked up a few images really quickly to see how does Naruto do that weird attack. It's some word that starts with an R, like Rotsukin or something like that. I don't know. I'm not making fun of Naruto, by the way. I mean, it's an anime that's just as formidable as any other, I guess. It's just that I don't know. Sometimes it feels like with anime you have to grow up with it, because you go back to season 1 and it's like, wow, this is for like 8-year-old kids. It's not even entertaining. And then the show grows up with the audience, and so it gets more mature. And the thing is I'm the sort of person that if I'm going to get into something, I need to know everything about it. And so I go to season 1 and everything, episode 1, season 1, and if it doesn't grab me, it's just not going to work for me. So I wasn't the target audience for the first season, episode 1, or first series, episode 1 even. Aren't there multiple series of Naruto? I think there are. But anyways, yeah, I mean, if it started out more mature like Full Metal Alchemist, then heck yeah, I'd totally jump onto that. But yeah, there was no way for me to really enjoy that first season at all. But yeah, I understand it. It grows up eventually. It's just I don't want to get into something that's without knowing the full context of the whole story. That's basically ultimately what I'm saying here. And here I'm adding the fun stuff. This is when the image starts really coming together. It's when I start adding the shadows and highlights. It's when everything is starting to work the way that I want it to. And you can see that I'm starting to try and do that concept that I may have mentioned earlier, where if a character has, say, something like white skin, and it doesn't really matter, if it anywhere approaches the color of white in any way, it most especially winds up adopting the colors of the light around it. So if say I'm a white boy, so if I were to walk into a club that has red and blue lighting, I would be like, people wouldn't really be seeing peach-colored skin. What they would wind up seeing is blue and red because of the reflective qualities of my skin tone. And I actually had to, when I wasn't working on this image, I had to actually look up in Google Images how lighting affects somebody with a darker complexion. And so I tried to mimic that as much as possible. I shared this image with a bunch of, well, not a bunch, a couple of people that use the same software as me, and they said, "Oh man, he kind of looks like his face has been painted." So later on, I wound up revisiting his face, and you'll see that in this video. I finished this image in this video, by the way. And what I wound up doing was just adding shadows and such, because his hand is so far to the left that there's no reason, or page left, that there's no reason for there not to be a shadow on the page right side of his nose. And he's angry, so there would be some folds around his nose and above his brow line and such like that, in order to accommodate the scowl. And yeah, this, I really feel as though I for the villain I kind of made M. Bison, I think I made, or it kind of feels like a Street Fighter sort of character that I constructed there. And here you see me kind of working on these motion lines, and I like to freehand these. I could have been a little bit more technical with them, but, you know, if they don't wind up being perfectly straight, that's fine. If people notice that they're not perfectly straight, it'll get them to kind of ask the question, why? And, you know, the question why isn't always a bad thing, especially if it gets them to look at your image for an extended period of time. And as long as your image is a high quality, as long as it looks really good, I feel as though this is pretty top notch here. I feel as though I did a good job here. As long as the image is good, and you know, you can see the craftsmanship in the image, then there's no reason why there would be a problem. Because like if people happen to see your motion lines aren't perfectly straight, then it might be just one more thing to appreciate out of the image, if that makes sense. And here, you know, at first I was being really technical with the background, but this is, like I said in the last video, this is supposed to be a Twitter banner. So this background is going to be rather small, and not only that, I'm going to be doing some heavy remastering with the colors. So ultimately, a lot of the shadows and highlight, actually I didn't even add highlights to the background. I don't know, I should have maybe, I don't know. Ultimately, I'm not displeased with how the image came out. Here you see me add a vignette. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is that French or something? Is it pronounced vignette or something? I don't know. I've always called it a vignette. That's how it's spelled, vignette. But yeah, like here I'm getting to the point to where I'm remastering the colors, and with adjustment layers and such like that. This is raster work, and so. This is the only part of the image that's raster, and I'm happy with how this turned out. Ultimately, what I oftentimes do when I go this route is I wind up looking at some of the extreme changes that the adjustment layer does, and I leave it at that, and then I mask, like I color the entire mask of the adjustment layer black, and then I go ahead and brush in what it actually does to the image back into the image, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. This makes it so that you know, it's not applied in areas that you're not accounting for. A lot of times you'll be like, oh yeah, 90% of the image looks great, I'm going to keep it that way, but it winds up making other images, other parts of the image look wrong. And so you don't notice that on the first viewing, because it changed the entire image. It didn't just change one or two things, it changed the entire image. And then you go ahead and publish it or something, and people wind up noticing it, the problem. So being able to brush in your adjustment layers, that's pretty key. And here you can see the final version of the image. I think it came out looking really stinking cool. I'm really happy with this image, and so is the client. I have another commission lined up, and it's about 3 different jobs, and if I can get permission to social media about it, to make videos and to post updates about it online, I'll cue you guys in, hopefully. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to click on the bell or go ahead and follow me on Twitter. And if you guys would like to see more of my content, feel free to click on anything appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.